Dark Souls 3 is a game where the combat is defined by its fast-paced attacks, precise dodging, and importance of learning enemy attack patterns, all while managing your own stamina. Today I will be completely ignoring the first three concepts in the attempt to learn. Can you beat Dark Souls 3 while overloaded? While I make my character, allow me to go over the rules. Of course, rule 1, I must be overloaded. That's literally it. Obviously this means no running, no rolling. For the entire playthrough, we must maintain this walking speed. But please don't go anywhere, we still become incredibly powerful, like a walking tank. Just before I go back to making my character, I want to say that 0% of people watching this video are subscribed, and that's because this is the first video I've ever made on this channel. I'd like to ask a favor, not for a subscribe or a like, please just watch the video, comment, tell me something you liked, didn't like, what I should improve, that's all. Now, going on to the run, we pick Cleric for the lowest vitality, and the Life Ring for added beef, and now it's time to wake up from our 1,000-year slumber and take Lothric by a light drizzle. We loaded into the graveyard, took our first of many steps, tried to see if our running around was faster. It isn't. We walked up to our first enemy, failed our first parry of the run before stomping his head in. We got a huge Cleric's Chime, which we already start with, drop, and then we read possibly the most helpful advice we could get for a run like this. We grab a staple of any run, Blue Gatorade, before we encounter the most common challenge that I faced for this run, range support during melee encounters. But it's literally the tutorials, so we waffle stomped them down the drain. Keep walking. Pushing forward to the third hollow, we kill him in one hit, because it's the starting area, and then we press ahead to light the first bonfire of the run, but we don't sit at it. To scale the first wall of the playthrough, Edex Gundyr, we must first draw the sword from his rotten body. The fight starts off favorably for us, with some solid connects, and then, before he can even get up, I know what he's going to do, so this should be a free parry. Well, I make a mess of it. That's absolutely perfect. Right, perfect. But, it's the first boss of the game, it's more forgiving. So on the second swing, we do get the parry. We continue getting our few swings in, before getting another free parry and the riposte. After getting back up, Gundyr enters his second phase, using his transition attack and then his big slam attack. What do you know about the Dark Souls 3 shields? So, the blue wooden shield, the Cleric starting shield, is abysmal for a challenge like this, offering low stability, low guard absorption. I mean, even the shield has too low stability for us. Sorry, you don't know what stability is? You've never used a shield? Okay, so it's this little number right here. Looking at these two shields, they're both pretty terrible. But if we look at these two endgame shields that pop up right here, you'll notice they have 80 and 75. And you're probably thinking 80 doesn't look like a lot more than 75. But the way it's calculated, it's percentage based. So it's actually 20% more efficient to use the Great Shield of Glory rather than the Havel's Great Shield. Returning to the ring, my opponent is clearly tweaking on an illegally synthesized material, and the only response that I can think of for that is more blunt force trauma, so we put Gundyr down, defeating the first boss of the run. Arriving at the crib, which is going to be our main base of operations because the game forces it to be, I show my wife this super huge jump, and she thought it was very cool. I then proceed to light the first bonfire in the coolest way possible. I really wish that they brought this back in some way. I sell the handmaiden everything short of my phone, wallet, and keys, and I spent, I'm being serious, like 15 minutes considering buying this halberd. I go and I see the smith. This is Andre. He is a smith.
I am a smith.
I completely invalidate the run. I continue on to the upper part of the crib where we trade bones for bracelets, which, if I'm being honest, is a really good band name, before doing another jump to get the Silver Serpent ring, which I did not unequip for the entirety of the playthrough. I level up with the Maiden in Black. After leveling up with the Maiden in Black, it is on to the High Wall of Lothric. The first order of business is to hit this sweet 360 block before proving myself as the mightiest toddler in the lands by removing these pit bulls from the park. I have to remind this large hollow of the pecking order. That is until my asthma catches up with me and I am unable to get it up. But why? Obesity in Dark Souls 3 lowers stamina regeneration just like it does in real life. Thankfully there's ways of boosting it, just like these. But some things can actually lower your stamina regeneration, just like this Great Shield of Glory. This kind of removes it as a viable tool for us. How did this become about shields again? Back to beefing with the big boys, I use what the game generously calls a shield to parry him. Oh wow, would you look at that? A halberd that never left my inventory. I press ahead grabbing a longbow, try not to invade the geek circle, but one dude's clearly absolutely tripping balls, so we just try and slink around him. I push down into Lothric Major, arguing on the early hollows and killing the deserter here before pushing forwards. The Lantern Hollow enemy here makes it much easier for me to clear out these areas because I don't really have to focus on where the enemies are because the enemies are going to come to me, which is quite nice. I ignore the main entrance and decide to slink up around the tower first, killing more hollows here. I get too big for my britches and I get jumped on the top of the tower, leading to a run back. I sped the run back up for you by around 200% because I don't need you to see me killing all these hollows again. I take my time clearing the enemies on top because I have learned my lesson. This guy makes a mad dash for where I'm supposed to be before I kill his friend who's busy throwing firebombs at me with 2 hits. And then I'm able to grab the object of my search. The binoculars. Heading down around, I make sure to kill the same hollow that jumped off earlier. I pick up my souls and I slink down around the side of the tower to collect the lightning resin, which I never actually used. Stomped the remaining enemies in the area. I think it's funny the way my character just walks around here. Jump down the ladder, and I use the binoculars for this cool scenic shot, which is the only time in the video that I do because I forget that they exist. The next part is very stressful. I obviously can't go the path of the dragon, so I have to spend my time trying to bait out the hollows. I use what little firepower I have to finish off the first ranged hollow before pinking the melee hollows in the head in an attempt to get them to run over to me. I had this issue where shield hollows would not aggro on me when I would hit them. Instead, I would have to waste another arrow to hit one of the sword and shield hollows to get them to aggro on me. And for the 4th time this run, I almost died to a basic enemy. I push forward, getting into a bit of a dogfight with this archer here. Obviously, I have a real human brain, so I'm able to sidestep and hit a clean headshot. Before running out of arrows and being unable to finish him off. I have to sneak up first, taking out the spear hollow in a 3-hit combo. Me bomba! Skillfully damaging the last hollow with an or1 after I miss my jump attack. I made such a big deal out of that night fight, but it really could not have been less of an issue. I continue up the stairs and around the side of the tower to light the next bonfire of the run. I begin the long overdue farm to finally upgrade my armor because I am actually just wearing clothes like regular people wear. I grab my favourite soul level 1 weapon, the broadsword, before continuing to push down to the lower areas of Lothric Castle. I embrace my Irish heritage, using firebombs to clear out the area, before having to kill 1 or 2 large hollows by hand, but it's really not an issue when you've got the broadsword. I go round 2 with Princess the Pitbull and improve tricky with a man bent on playing God before he is reminded of his hubris as man with a couple of explosive rounds to the chest. We rescue Gayrat before proceeding to the courtyard. I'm going to be honest, I died here 16 times, but thanks to the power of editing, you don't need to see that. You just get to see me speedrun, in quotation marks, the shortcut. And I fight this absolute slugfest 1v1 that didn't really matter because the shortcut was open. Trying to push past the dragon here took 2 or 3 attempts, but it was just as lucky as getting those ore ones to the side so I don't get caught. I press ahead here and down and around to the Mimic, using the 2 Undead Hunter charms we picked up in the lower part of Lothric to put the Mimic to sleep for an easier kill. I was really hoping for an early symbol of avarice from the 2 Hunter charms, but no luck. Proceeding to hack the Mimic to bits, I go to pick up my reward, the Deep Battle Axe, before I'm very surprised to find the symbol of avarice. Next up, just before Vort, I decide to defeat every Lothric knight in the vicinity to prove that I'm ready, and then it's on to the second boss of the run, what I think is going to be our first major challenge. I was really worried because I knew that Vort's breath attack could make this a tricky fight, both with it being able to knock us over and keep us in a pseudo stun lock, or then his charge attack keeping us in an actual stun lock. I got pretty lucky when all he decided he wanted to do was do 1 mace poke before exposing his soft underbelly for me to swing at. And I was worried about my damage numbers until I saw the damage numbers, and I was like, well, that's a lot of damage. So the fight was kind of over as soon as we got underneath him here. Even this phase transition, which really worried me because I knew I was going to get hit by at least 2 of the charge attacks, this was fine because I didn't know you get iframes when you're lying on the ground. Certainly something to keep in mind for later. The fight was over as soon as we found ourselves underneath his soft underbelly. We smash his walls in, put on our lucky headpiece, and get ready to continue. And now, advancing to our next frontier, the Undead Settlement. First up on our grocery list is to grab Manuel. We continue down the lane avoiding the dogs before lighting the first bonfire. We take our first few steps towards inevitable death. We bone Gayrat's girl, show the people of England I'm still a problem. And then it's time for our next challenge, to throw down with your mother. This is a problem. Grab attacks in video games, especially from soft video games. Sorry, wait. Is anyone else sick of this background? Let me just... Okay, perfect. There we go. Sorry, grab attacks are characterized by a long wind-up, high damage, easy to dodge attacks that give pretty open windows for the player to attack. But we can't roll, we can't backstep, and we certainly don't have anything like Elden Ring's Sacred Ground. As a result, usually we just get vigor checked, and it takes a huge time off our buffs. Standing up after being squeezed so hard we pop at both ends, we slam her into the ground with a jump attack, shamble towards the fire she was coveting, picking up an Estus shard, which is very useful for our journey. We pop open this door here, shamble through, smash a few boxes, slip down a hole. We slurp up Solaire's special soup before starting the Sunbro Covenant. Nothing else of note happens between here and the bonfire. It's a straight shot with enemies throwing things at you that you can block. This next section, however, was one of the most frustrating of the run, and it was worse than the Anorlando archers. Having to fight off so many of these little rabbit men while the other ones were pelting stones at you was very frustrating. We chop it up with this fine gentleman. Hitch a ride off of his Uber. We claim our rewards with the Moundmaker's Covenant after talking to this man and getting the Covenant. Claiming our rewards, we get the Warmth spell, which I had every intention of using and never did, and a katana that I didn't even read the description of. Next, pushing through the fire and the flames, we carry on, being pelted by Tim and Tom up top. Shambling ahead over here to pick up this soul item, I accidentally aggro Gale's uncle standing over there with the pot before these two use the power of friendship to hit a double bomb on me, stunning me. This, combined with Gale's uncle running at me, and these two bombs here, give me just enough time to not be able to make it over to the edge. But it's okay. Coming back on our next attempt, we come back, grab our souls, get pelted for old time's sake, and slither into the basement of the shack. Jumping down off of the cliff, scared that I was going to aggro this hollow, I light the bonfire before seeing if I can creep up around the side of the building to enact revenge on the gruesome twosome. Walking around the building, killing the last hollow before meeting up with the pyromancer. What's his face? Yes, that's in the script. On our next go around to the Undead settlement, I go turtle hunting but get jump scared. I really thought this big rat would be much more of an issue, but I just flattened him out in 2 swings before opening the jail door, which is the shortcut back to our bonfire. Rage baiting Slave Knight Gale's dad and uncle to fall off the bridge cost me a couple bolts, but not really much else, and it's a small price to pay compared to fighting them. The tower ahead houses the Thinker, who we ignore completely. We head on down, roll on our bellies to submit to the Outrider Knout, who is our alpha. Grab the bonfire, which I didn't record footage of. Cheers. And then we walk back in with a chip on our shoulder, ready to smash him into the dirt. The fight with the Outrider Knight was a very bloody one that I really didn't think I was going to win, but surprisingly only took 1 attempt. I think the blue Tearstone ring saved me, but I can't be sure because I don't really know when it activated because I can't see the particles with all of the snow. We talk to the only giant to ever take the short bus before slipping down the tower. Luckily for me, this slip puts me right next to Sigvard. Now it is our turn to utilize the power of friendship and give this demon the old what for, jumping him completely. Skipping ahead through the area as nothing else of note happens, we grab the most useful ring for this run, do some hardcore parkour. I really was not missing the roll at this point, especially because the axe off the cliff can accomplish much the same thing. Grab what I would describe only as a godsend before I touch a blind woman in a prison until she vanishes into thin air. Back at the shrine we do business, and I get not just an in-game miracle, but a real-life miracle in Homeward, because honest to God, the walkbacks are killing me. Miss my trademark double parry with no riposte at the start of the fight versus Mildred, before I remember that I'm a real human with a real brain, and she is several lines of code, so I throw her clanker ass out back. We grab what I didn't know would be our main weapon for the run, before engaging in a full minute of combat with a lycanthrope. Pressing ahead, I grab the first great shield of the run before engaging combat with the two exiles, Larry and Barry. I just want to clear up, that's not editing. I can just do that. Making it to the ladder successfully, we get to watch both of the exiles attempt the Lothric long jump world record. Heading back to Firelink Shrine, I get suited and booted at the shrine in the new exile armor, which is much better than our old Lothric armor, and it looks way cooler. We grab an Estus shard, put out a fire, and then it's on to the biggest challenge of the run. The unarmed Guru are a nightmare. Contrary to the ones with spears and daggers and poison mists, the unarmed Guru is much more dangerous specifically for our build because of his grab attack that not only buffs him, but his jumping attack that ignores shields. And we really would have gotten him here if he didn't do it twice with no cooldown. That's bullshit. I do not care. I decided to try the weapon art. I'm not even going to show you this attempt. I almost completely gave up on using the pike after that, switching over to the trusty deep battle axe, which we used for much of the early playthrough, before relegating myself to axes for the remainder of the playthrough later on. Using the battle axe, we do kill him before we put out another fire. We grab infinite +1s. Pet this dog. We claim our covenant rewards. Grab the bonfire. We bone hard. And we put out the last fire before making it to the Abyss Watchers arena. After a meeting with Iodex Gundir's illegal supplement supplier, it's very easy for us to just sit back and poke away at the Abyss Watchers. Iron Flesh makes the playthrough honestly so much easier. We can just keep poking and poking away until the boss is well under half health. But then it's my turn to get jumped, getting my head pushed through the fog wall, thrown down the side of it, but I just need 1 minute. Luckily, one diva goes rogue and gives me enough time to reapply the buffs before getting absolutely blasted. 07 for my friend. And then from there, it's a matter of refilling all of my flasks and bars and just going for broke, just poking and poking away because I know that I can't get staggered. I skipped the cutscene despite it being my first time fighting the boss before starting phase 2 and reapplying my buffs before the smackdown begins. Instead of using any kind of strategy, I just let him walk towards me, take another injection of nanomachines, and just start poking away. Around here, I realized that there's a very good chance I would gas out before he died, and that is when I decided to just go for broke, two-handing the spear, getting rid of the shield, and just continuing to poke away. It was around here that my iron flesh would wear off, and I really thought that I was cooked. But through some divine miracle of God, he jumps back, and I am able to get the second cast off just in the nick of time after getting my shield broken. From here, with no Estus left, there's only one thing to do, and that is to just go straight digging, all gas, no brakes. Abyss Watcher is the third boss. Who said Dark Souls 3 is too linear? Next up, this demon catches a stray. I gear up, he smashes me down, I block with my spear for some reason, he picks me up, I get popped like a balloon. But it's not much of an important fight. I even fight him with the headgear on, so I'm just going to keep pushing past that. I start scuffing with the locals right here before getting these honestly very weird backstabs that I don't think I should have gotten. And it was around this point that I decided I was sick of the pike. I jumped down here grabbing an Estus shard before pushing forward, fighting this crab for no joke 2.5 minutes, but this is my second attempt, so you only have to see the latter half of the fight. I pick up the Grassed Crest Shield, which is a lifeline with the Butcher's Knife because I can put it on my back and two-hand it, getting a strength bonus and a faster attack swing, as well as increased stamina regeneration, which we desperately need. I get called a simpleton by this sorcery teacher, which prompts me to get angry and throw a tantrum, smashing up his scrolls. And then it's time for the boss that honestly I feared the most this playthrough. So, of course, my only real tactic is to slowly walk up to him, sidle up next to him, while getting blasted from afar by his sorceries. We apply all of our buffs as soon as we get into melee range before absolutely pushing his walls inwards. I can generally get about 4 swings off or a charged heavy and 2 swings, but honestly it doesn't matter as our stamina regeneration leads to it being the exact same damage output. I've sped up the footage of me walking around because no one wants to see me walk around for 5 minutes, but I also want to show you just how many attacks I did get hit by while I was fighting him. Pay attention to my health during this fight. It gets very, very low. Upping the blick on the clones is the only way I can think to successfully walk to the Crystal Sage again, because I think if I was getting hit by that many Crystal Spears, it would just be game over. I cast Replenishment before waiting a little bit and then walking up alongside the Crystal Sage. I'm completely out of Estus at this point, so I am kind of at the mercy of Sharpen and my buffs to keep me alive. And thankfully, the boss is only one hit away. I'm able to successfully destroy a clone that spawned too close to me, sidestep this attack, destroy the rest of his clones after taking a Crystal Soul Spear, hide behind this wall, I just have to sneak up to him. I tank his final attacks. It's it. The music is playing. I take my first swing. I miss. I take my second swing. I miss! And I die. After that absolutely heartbreaking finish, I proceed to die again and again and again and again, not really stopping for 6 or 7 attempts. But my next attempt, I lock in. I optimize what I wanted to do. So I was going to be using the Lothric Knight's Great Shield with an 83% magic resistance so that I could block all of his attacks. I would be fully buffing before I get any of my swings off on him. I would be using the fully charged Ore 2 because I learned that it gives more health recovery with my weapon art than standard Ore 1s. The tactic of using the bolts against the Crystal Sage's copies in Phase 2 remained the same. And I had to inch ever closer hiding behind pillars because I wanted to manage my Estus a lot better this time. This clip here just shows how useful the Lothric Gate Shield was. And we've been here before. We've been at the point where the boss only needs 1 health. I popped this Crystal Sage before hitting a nasty 360 on that next one. 2 swings and that's it. We put him to bed. A lot easier than I thought it would be. Equipping our headgear for the increased souls, we push on to the next area. After defeating the wannabe Hokage and his shadow clones, I push on to the steps of the chapel before making mincemeat of the NPCs. This guy really liked showing me that he could roll, which I didn't think was very funny. Thought it was quite offensive considering my condition, so I just killed him. And his friend too, which was a lot easier. Now, I've never cleared out this area. I don't think you've ever cleared out this area, and it's for good reason, right? The teleporting dogs, the getting shot at arrows from all sides, the uphill terrain. I always just leave it. None of it really makes for a very fun experience. Given how slow I'm moving, I kind of do have to. And considering how dicey this fight with all of these random NPCs and hollows got, it makes sense why I never bothered to clear it out before. It's a very difficult fight. But if I'm being honest, walking up to the 3 archers and being able to kill them was incredibly satisfying in a way that I just couldn't describe. We step ahead lighting the bonfire next to Slave Knight Gale before we start talking to him, and honestly we get what we deserve for trying to steal from the homeless. After Gale gives us that good suck, I talk to the NPC that I never knew existed in my 400 hours of playing this game, and this cost me actually a full minute because I had to turn around and walk out of the cave, but I can cut that out for you. I light the bonfire before realizing that I absolutely am out of place in this area. This is a DLC area for a reason, and I get thrown down between the washing machine and the dryer more times than I can count. Eventually, I manage to try sneaking down and around, but it fails, and then I try again, and it fails again. But on my 5th or 6th attempt, maybe even 7th, I make it. I make it to the cliff and we fall down. Sneaking down and around to the object of my searches, first on the chopping list is this tree. I commit some mild deforestation before it grabs me, and it actually almost one-shots me. Instead of using any of my Estus, I cast Replenishment and I wait. I just waited for 5 minutes. I use Sharpen and I have at the next tree, but this is just to keep my health topped up. Then it's time for a blast from the past where I use the exact same tactic I used in Lothric Castle to get past these followers, where I have to pink the melee ones before getting them down to my level where I can successfully take them out. Ironically enough, the weapon that I'm here for would have made this job so much easier. Finally, I collect the object of my searches, the Follower's Javelin, which I think I used one single time in the playthrough and it took a year off my life with stress to grab, but whatever, who cares. Heading back to the church grounds, I try out the Follower Javelin on a random group of hollows. It is as successful as internet penis enlargement pills. Pushing ahead, we continue to bone hard, get slapped, pick up our main shield until the end game. I grab this goated chime, which lets us cast faster than a +3 Sage's ring, and then it's just footage of me clearing out the church. I kill your mom in one combo, showing you so much stronger I've become since the Undead settlement, but before surviving getting jumped. Even if I am the victim of a bad hitbox here and there, nothing can really excuse what just happened here. I honestly, and really, got taken out back and shot by the Follower Javelin's hitbox here. I push ahead to fight this dual swords user before realizing it's actually a 2v1 where it's me versus him and the camera angle is helping him out. After defeating him, I push up the stairs into the main cathedral before looking down over the area that I had to conquer. I take a left to head on in and around. Taking an elevator down, I open up the first shortcut in the cathedral, pushing through this door and finally being reunited with my precious bonfire. I sit down, head back out, leaving the safety of the bonfire, but I'm not too upset because this is one of my favorite designed areas in Dark Souls 3. We play nice with our new friend, the big friendly giant, but he turns us into a paste. However, he does make it up to me when he helps me kill this hollow that was tormenting me my entire previous walk back. Heading down here, after using a couple Undead Hunter charms, we kill the Mimic to pick up the book that he drops before engaging in our first fight with the Cathedral Knight. The Cathedral Knight fights take a long time, so I have to cut them down because a lot of the time they like to turtle behind their shield. So it's just me swinging at him and him swinging at me, but obviously I take way less damage because I know how to use my shield. This is the only use the Follower Javelin gets against this gigantic Aldrich spider looking creature. I show Kirk what's up in the nastiest PvP fight you've ever seen, taking a little over a minute and a half to kill him before I hit him with a nasty 360. I kill the first giant, head down to open the second shortcut, and this is one of the things I love about this area is how prominent the shortcut level design is. We open the new corresponding door before making it back into the arms of our beloved bonfire. I killed the other giant with the Mimic's headpiece attached before getting jumped by the slimes. We press forward to meet up with Sigvard. He tells us he's a knight, which I knew, but I think he's a little bit slow. We make our way over the bridge, and then we realize it's not Sigvard at all. It's actually Patches. We go forwards trying to find more treasure, but get welcomed to the jam by this Cathedral Knight. Trying to teach his friend a lesson, he shoves us off of a cliff before jumping down. Heading back up to fight the Cathedral Knight with the Greatsword, we realize the Cathedral Knights with the Greatsword are actually the easiest ones to fight. It looks something like the Piccolo versus Android 17 fight. And then it's time for the Deacons. And if I'm being honest, the Deacons were not hard. Going into the Deacons, it felt like I was the boss and they were challenging me. But then after that, what I did to poor old Francis was so much worse. I took to the roof, killing the bunny man in one hit, astounded at my damage, before engaging in this rafters battle with the Cathedral Knight, failing my 2 parries, which is standard for me. I sent him falling down to his death, which I have to think would be one of the most terrifying ways to die, not knowing when you can hit the ground. I meet this lovely man up here who claims he's sorry, but I don't know why. It's for something I've never met. We talk to Yoel, bringing me up to level 56 before the Catacombs, which is honestly just insane. 5 free levels at this point in the game are so valuable, especially for a run like this. I then head on to farm for all of the Cathedral Knight armor, weapons, tools, just because I think it could be useful for the fight ahead. We buy the tower key with the souls we accumulated from farming, as well as the deep protection spell. Scaling to the top of the tower, I grab the Firekeeper's soul. I didn't know she was ginger. Before we come down to get pranked by our good friend. And you're probably thinking, it's impossible to get to the bottom of the tower without being able to jump. But you're wrong. Not only is it possible, it's easier. This is the way I would do it in a normal playthrough. I grab the Estus ring before proceeding to open the door. Give the Katana Master the what for after not doing it earlier in the playthrough, before kicking him off a ledge because I don't really even need his drops and he was going to die anyway. I proceed to buy the Katarina armor with my leftover souls from farming so that I can give it to Sigvard. Teleporting back to the chapel, I proceed to walk out so I could give Sigvard his clothes back. After giving Sigvard his clothes back, I think it's finally time for me to wrap up the first video. Okay, so this is my outro sequence. This isn't scripted at all. This is not the first time I've made a video. This isn't the first time I've edited a video. This isn't the first time I've tried audio engineering, anything like that. But it is the first time that I want to post it, and it's because I want to get better. And I think that there's only so many videos you can make in isolation before you hit like an upper limit. So I just want help. I want people to comment like, do this more, do that more. One big issue I'm having is the audio. I just don't know whether I'm making things too loud for the average person, too quiet for the average person. I'm really struggling with the fitting how long, because I want longer video clips. I don't want it to be as choppy, but I just don't have as much to say for that. So if anyone wants to give me any tips or any advice on that, And this is my outro sequence. It's probably going to stay my outro sequence. Right there is where the next video is going to be, but I don't have a next video, so for right now it's just a sneak peek of the next episode. And then on the right is where I could put maybe some information. I don't know. If there's any issues that you have, please just let me know, because I just want to make the best video that I can. Alright, well, that's it. Good evening, God bless, and good night.